الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأولين والآخرين حبيب رب العالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ورحمتي وسعت كل شيء فسأكتبها للذين يتقون ويؤتون الزكاة والذين هم بآياتنا يؤمنون صدق الله العظيم. Respect brothers and sisters, seniors and juniors. We've assembled today for a very important topic, which is, of course, it flows off our tongues, but it is very critical in the sense that it is what we know as a pillar of Islam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the famous hadith, he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim, that seeking knowledge is essential for every single Muslim. The question that arises in this hadith is that how much knowledge is necessary for us? So does everyone have to become a scholar, or how much? So the scholars answered that you have to learn that much knowledge in proportion to the situation you find yourself in. So a 12-year-old boy, what is necessary, or 14-year-old boy, what is necessary for him is to learn the ahkam of salah. Someone, as he grows up and he starts working, now it's necessary for him to learn the rule of business. When he gets married, he has to learn the ahkam of marriage, and so forth. So zakah, and the vast majority, a good amount of the ummah is liable to pay zakah. So the importance of zakah cannot be understated. What is zakah? Zakah is to take a specific amount from your wealth. This is the definition. 3 parts to it. To take a specific amount from your wealth with the intention of zakah. So the specific amount, we know it is 2.5%, and make someone else the owner. So to take a specific amount, which is 2.5%, and this is what the Sharia has told us, this will not change regardless of the situation and so forth, with the intention of zakah. So the intention has to be there when we're taking out zakah. So either when we are separating the wealth, or when we are giving it to the person. Sometimes people give their zakah online, but we have to make this intention of zakah. This is important because sometimes during some brothers, we get into the moment and we will write a check, for example, to the masjid, or depending what the situation is, they could be in a fundraiser, and they just write the check out. But if they did not make the intention at that moment, the zakah is not fulfilled. They have to have that specific intention in their mind of zakah. And to make someone else the owner, this is very key. This is very, very important. When you make someone else the owner, we're talking about this person who is a recipient of zakah. So it has to be a person. And you have to make him what we call in Arabic tamlik. You have to make him the malik. You have to make him the owner. So for example, if we have to donate to a hospital, that's very good, but that cannot be qualified as zakah, because when we give to a hospital, no one is becoming the owner of the wealth. So you have to give to a specific person, and this person, he has the owner, and he can do what he wants to do with the wealth. It is his wealth now. I cannot give him the money and say, you can only buy this for food or something like this. It's his wealth. So this is something to keep in mind, because we're not pointing fingers at anyone, but sometimes in today's world, people have broadened the definition of zakah, and they're taking zakah for their schools. When I say school, I mean not for students, to the school. So for example, the electricity bills of a madrasa, this cannot be classified as zakah, and so forth. We are in such a situation where people, we might not know about this, but people use organizations sometimes use zakah money to pay for Facebook ads. The maqsad of Sharia is that the person who does not have money in the society, he must have food, he must have wealth, he must be in a good situation. That's the maqsad of Sharia. From there, unfortunately, we have digressed to organizations are using the zakah money for their Facebook ads. Allahu Akbar. And just as a side point, this institution of zakah is so blessed. So you have 2 systems. You have the system of riba, and you have the system of zakah. The system of riba is such that when people are involved in it, it sinks them in, and it keeps the poor. And zakah, if it is currently, the estimate of the global zakah of the Muslims is between $200 billion to $1 trillion. 200 billion to $1 trillion. And if zakat is distributed properly, it is enough to remove poverty from society. And that's the idea behind zakat, that poverty is eradicated. And alhamdulillah, we read during the era of the Sahaba Ikram, the Sahaba Ikram went to Yemen, they started Muslim societies there. There was no poverty. They collected the zakat money and they sent it to other places. And they said, we have no one here to receive the zakat. So it's a pillar of Islam. And so it's 20%. There's only 5 pillars of Islam. It's not 15, it's not 25. It's only 5 pillars, which means this is 20% of our Islam right here in our zakat. And if we are up to date with our zakah, we're up to date with 20% of our religion. What are the virtues of zakah? Just very quickly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy encompasses everything. Who will receive my mercy? فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا. Who is guaranteed mercy? فَسَأَكْتُبُهَا لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ. I will declare my mercy for those people who have taqwa. وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. And they gave zakah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a clear declaration of mercy, which means blessings in our lives if you give zakah. Allahu Akbar. Another hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this is a famous hadith, حَصِّنُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بِالزَّكَاةِ. Protect your wealth with zakah. When you gift your zakah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects your wealth, subhanAllah, with inflation nowadays and different situations. May Allah protect all of us. But we need all the help we can get with our money. The warnings of not paying zakah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned a very scary hadith, and he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ فَرَضَ عَلَىٰ أَغْنِيَاءِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it necessary for the rich Muslims, فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ, He has decreed a certain portion, بِقَدْرِ الَّذِي يَسَعُ فُقَرَاءَهُمْ, that amount which will be sufficient for the poor people. And these poor people, they will not become hungry except بِمَا يُضِيعُ أَغْنِيَاءُهُمْ, except in proportion to what the wealthy people waste. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحَاسِبُهُمْ حِسَابًا شَدِيدًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take them to severe account. وَيُعَذِّبُهُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them a severe punishment. May Allah protect all of us. So who is required to give zakah? Firstly, the Muslim. So if you have a Muslim country, you cannot tell the non-Muslims who are living there to pay zakah. The non-Muslims are not obliged to pay zakah. The next is, it has to be an adult. So a non-baligh child, sometimes our children have money, right? When they're born, people give hadiyah, the aqiqah, people give gifts. Sometimes we buy gold for our little daughters as well. So they have money, but they don't have to pay zakah on it. The third condition is they have to be sane. They have to be in control of their faculties. And so a person who is not sane, zakah, salah, everything else, he doesn't have to do any of that. The fourth one is nisab, which is the most important one, because the first 3, it applies to all the other ibadat also, for salah and so forth. But nisab, this is critical here, to be the owner and possessor of a certain amount of wealth, equaling the threshold at the start and end of the lunar year. So this is the most important part of nisab. One thing I just want to mention here is, we just mentioned that a person has to give 2.5% of his wealth. Some people, when they pay online or they give to organizations, there's something called, sometimes you have credit card fees, you have transaction fees. If a person's, hypothetically, if a person is zakat $1,000 and he pays online to an organization, and the organization, the credit card fees, let's say it's 2%. So that 2% of his zakat has not been paid. So if we're paying online, then we have to make sure we pay a bit extra to cover the credit card fees and the transaction fees. And there are, alhamdulillah, a list of organizations who, alhamdulillah, they have 100%, whatever you give them, they will give 100% donation policy. They will forward that zakat. Generally, sometimes the ulama, they mention other conditions of zakah, but inshallah, we have incorporated those into the other parts of the discussion. So what is the nisab? The nisab is, there are 2 nisab, there are 2 amounts we go with normally. So there's what we call the gold nisab, which is 87.48 grams. Currently, as of today, that is $8,397. And there's the silver nisab, which is 612.36 grams of silver. So you multiply that by the market rate. You just have to Google, not the buying and selling rate. There's something called the market rate. You multiply these grams by the market rate, and it adds up to $665.79. So something in here. So for the sisters at home who have jewelry, what they need to do is they need to just buy a weighing scale. You can buy this weighing scale from Amazon. And you just need to measure all your gold and your jewelry just once. And then you write down the numbers. Now you have the numbers saved on your phone, piece of paper, whatever it is. Now during the year, if you buy more gold, you just have to add on to that amount. So you just have to make this effort just once, inshallah. Now, so one important thing to keep in mind here is that, so generally people have a mixture of gold, silver, cash, and so forth. But in the rare situation where a person has only gold, which is very rare, but they have only gold, they will follow the gold nisab. Which means, what does this mean? It means once a person is the owner of $8,397, then they will pay zakah. But, so if an individual owns only gold, then they will go by the gold nisab. If they own mixed zakatable assets, which is 99.9% of all of us, we own gold, we own silver, we own cash. Even the sisters, they don't only own gold, they own gold as well as silver. So whoever has mixed assets, which means anything in addition to gold, then they will go by the silver nisab. The silver nisab is $665.79, which means that if a person has $665 after 1 year, this person will have to give zakah. So this is what we call nisab. So nisab means that, okay, so how does it work out? When you say, we're talking about $665, right? When do you have to be the owner of this? And so forth. So let's look at this. So we have the Islamic ones here, because the first thing is we're not going to go with the solar calendar. We don't go with January, February. We go with the Islamic calendar, which is, and there is actually a rate for the solar calendar also. But the reason why we don't mention it is because we want living in a non-Muslim country, we want to keep our culture of Islam alive. So we want to do the calculation with the lunar calendar. So we have Ramadan. Let's say hypothetically, so this is the nisab. The nisab is $665. This is $665 right here. This is the red line. So in Ramadan 1445 last year, someone was the owner of $665. The moment you become the owner of $665, you have reached the nisab. Now you are the possessor of nisab. This was last year, 1445 Ramadan. So during this year, so you started off with $665. Maybe someone started a job, they got their first paycheck. Now their wealth is going up and down, is going very, very high, mashallah. Maybe this is, $10,000. So what happens is that we do not look, the Hanafi madhab has this the easiest, alhamdulillah. We do not look at what happens in the middle of the year. And I'll explain this. We only look at the beginning of the year, which is Ramadan, and we look at the ending of the year, which is Ramadan again. So if a person has $665 here, and he has $665 here, he will pay zakat. His 1 year has passed. The question arises is, do I need to have $665 the entire year? That's a question. So that's why you can see in our chart, we have this. We put it down. If you remember, red is $665, right? The red is $665. In here, during Rabi' al-Awwal, he goes to $500. During Jumad al-Ula, he's going to $400. But we say that does not matter. What matters is at the ending of the year, you have $665. That's all. There's only one exception to this rule. And that exception is if your money goes to zero. Hypothetically, let's just say this is zero. A person's money went to zero in Jumad al-Ula. If a person's money goes to zero, then his year will reset. You start it again. It will no longer be in Ramadan, it will be in Jumad al-Ula. In Jumad al-Akhir, you can see right here, once he reaches nisab again. So if it goes to zero, the year breaks. But if it goes to $1, the year does not break. You will still continue counting the year from Ramadan. Is that okay? Now, let's just say hypothetically, we give the example, alhamdulillah, many brothers and sisters, they want to pay in Ramadan because of course the thawab is so much more greater. What if I became the owner of nisab in Muharram? What do I do then? Right? Because if I want to pay in Ramadan, if I want to switch the beginning of my year in Ramadan, so what I do then is I prepay. So hypothetically, I became the owner of nisab right here. What I do is I prepay my zakat for the next year. I make an estimate and I prepay it. But if the ending of the year I have more money, I pay the extra. So that way your nisab will reset in Ramadan. So that's the discussion of the nisab. One other point about nisab is, so we mentioned $665 in Ramadan, $665 in the next Ramadan. The question is, what if next Ramadan a person has $10,000? How much zakat will he pay? And when did he get this $10,000? He got this $10,000 10 days before Ramadan. So he will pay zakat on $10,000. Now it might seem a bit harsh, but it's the opposite is also true. Let's just say a person has assets of $100,000. Right before Ramadan, may Allah protect us, he suffered a massive loss, and right before Ramadan, 10 days before Ramadan, he only has $50,000. So he'll pay zakat on $50,000. So zakat is not like tax where you pay tax on every dollar. That's not how zakat works. Zakat works on what you have on that specific day. So that's the nisab done. Now the question that arises now is, how do I, what do I calculate to make myself the owner of nisab, or check to see if I'm the owner of nisab or not? What do I calculate? So largely speaking, these are what we look at. So gold, silver, cash, livestock, agriculture, and business merchandise. Business merchandise simply means anything which we buy with the intention of reselling, be it business shares, houses, whatever it is. If you buy something with the intention of reselling it, that's called business merchandise. Livestock and agriculture. Most of us living in America are not farmers, and we don't own livestock. So, and those is it's actually very, very technical, the zakat of livestock. So if anyone has a question about that, inshallah, we can take that separately. But today we're going to look at gold, silver, cash, and business merchandise. So you have two types. When we own whatever we own, there are two types. Some of those things, some of those assets, zakat is on them, and then some assets, they're not zakatable. These non-zakatable assets are of two types also. So whatever I own, maybe a person owns a car, he owns a house, he owns some clothes, he owns some money. Broadly speaking, once again, some of those items will be zakatable, some of them will not be zakatable. The non-zakatable items, there are two types. Those things which are necessary, I need them to live, and those things which are not necessary, but you still don't count them for zakat. And we'll take a look at an example. Is that okay, inshallah? Is everyone following, inshallah? If anyone needs to repeat anything, just let me know. So these are the non-zakatable assets. Non-zakatable assets means when I'm looking at my wealth to check if I am the owner of nisab, I do not count these. But we make a division. Why we make a division, we will see very, very soon, inshallah. Why? So you have the necessary items: clothes, cars, home, household goods, and appliances like a fridge, a washing machine. These are all part of necessary things which we need in life. But some things we do not need. They are not necessary. So, for example, jewelry, rubies, diamonds, emeralds, platinum, whatever it is. These are not called necessary items because I do not need to own a ruby to live. So, in simple words, there is no zakat on jewelry. Besides gold and silver, there is no zakat on any other form of jewelry. Someone might ask, but sometimes platinum is so expensive, diamond is more expensive than gold. It's not about what's more expensive, it's about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to pay. So jewelry, vacation homes. Vacation homes is not zakatable. It's part of the non-zakatable assets. So many brothers own homes in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Uzbekistan. They own a second home there. So the second home falls under non-zakatable assets. There is no zakat on the second home also. What about a rental home? A rental home is also, there is no zakat on the value of the rental home. So for example, you have Airbnb or just a rental. Someone buys a condo and let's say he bought a condo for $300,000 and the value is $300,000 and he earns $3,000 in rent. So the condo itself, there's no zakat on the $300,000. That's a condo. But the money you earn from the condo, from the rental, there's zakat on that. So why do we make this distinction? Why do you differentiate between the two? Now, the next, this is going to be a little bit technical, but I want to, inshallah, go through this. So we have three types of items we own. We have the zakatable items, which is gold, silver, cash, and business merchandise. Then you have the other two types are this non-zakatable, necessary. So if a person, let's say hypothetically, his house cost $3 million. A person's home costs $3 million. And he says, I need zakat. He does not have money. We will give him money. Why? Because his home, even if it's $3 million, this is a necessary item. This is a necessary item. Right? But let's say hypothetically, a person, he owns the house he lives in is $3 million. He has no cash. He's always spending money. He has no liquid cash. But he owns a second home. Now he asks us for money. This second home is part of beyond necessary. Right? The second home is part of beyond necessary. Now this person says, I don't have money. I need zakat. We will tell him, you don't have to pay zakat because you do not have money. He does not have money, so he doesn't have to pay zakat. Because his first house, it doesn't count. But we will say, because you own a second home, you are not eligible to receive zakat. So generally we think people are of two categories. Either you owe zakat or either you can receive zakat. But there's actually a third category, which is you do not have to pay zakat, but you are not eligible to receive zakat either. Why? Because of your beyond necessary assets. So for example, I'll give you another example. Let's just say hypothetically, there is a sister. There's a mother, she does not work. And she has no cash. And she owns only diamonds. Diamonds, there's no zakat on diamonds. Are diamonds necessary or beyond necessary? Beyond necessary. So she has $100,000 worth of diamonds. But she has $0. The question is, does she have to pay zakat? No, because she only has diamonds. But the second question is she eligible to receive zakat? The question is, no. We will tell this person, whoever it is, if you want money, you have to sell your beyond necessary items and you make money from that. So there are actually three categories of people. So that's what I put this here for. This is your zakatable assets like cash, gold, and silver. This is your diamonds. Let's just go with this. So this person, his gold is above nisab. The nisab is right here. His gold is above nisab. His diamonds are also nisab. He has to pay zakat. This person, liable to pay zakat and ineligible to receive zakat. This person, and then you have the second person right here. This person right here. These are normal second category. His gold is below nisab. His diamonds are also below nisab. He does not have to pay zakat and he can also receive zakat. Then you have the third category. This is the person I'm talking about, the third category. His gold is below nisab. His diamond is above nisab. What is the ruling for this person? We say, you do not have to pay zakat, but you cannot receive zakat. If you want money, sell your second home, sell your second car, sell your whatever else, your beyond necessary assets. So now we're coming on to the business merchandise. We mentioned, so there is, right here, we skipped livestock and agriculture. We're going to business merchandise. These are the things we look at when we have to, when we are seeing how much we have to pay zakat on. So zakat is due on stock, on inventory, and inventory acquired with the purpose of being sold again. So whatever it is, if I buy something with the intention of reselling, there's zakat on that, because this is business. The calculation of zakat will be based on the goods retail price. So for example, if someone buys a share in a company, he buys a share in Microsoft, he will not give zakat on what the value of the share is, because you bought it at a certain amount, and most of the time people will sell it higher. So you will sell it on the retail price, which is the price you intend to sell the item on. So for example, I buy a house for $300,000 and I want to sell it for $350,000, I will pay zakat on the $350,000. That is the retail price. Some scholars have mentioned if an item is still in the process of being built, for example, a t-shirt, if it's still in the process of being made, sometimes you write on the t-shirt and then you sell it, then you can sell the market value. So this is a very important ruling here. Real estate that is acquired with the intention of being leased out is exempt for zakat. I just mentioned this, right? If we buy that condo, what's the purpose of the condo? I'm going to lease it out. I'm going to give out for rental. This is exempted from zakat, but it is part of beyond necessary. Every partner is responsible to dispense zakat of his percentage share in the company. Now, business assets. When you have a business, which part of the business do you have to pay zakat on, and which part of the business you do not pay zakat on? So the first thing is, this is the zakatable assets. So cash. Each company has a certain amount, portfolio, whatever of cash they own. The stock in trade and the inventory, right? Whatever it is, if a person owns a certain amount of shares, for example, inventory, for example, hypothetically, I own a clothes factory, or so a brother owns a clothes factory. Now, how many shirts has he made? Let's say he has made 7,000 shirts. On the day of his nisab, on the day he's calculating his zakat, he has 7,000 shirts. So this will be counted. You have to look at the value of the 7,000 shirts, the retail value of the 7,000 shirts. Cash and trade receivables, this means the items you are supposed to receive. For example, I put in an order to buy 100 shoes, and the shoes are on their way. So I will count this. This is for the company, not personal. This is business calculation, not company calculation. So cash and trade receivables. What is not zakatable from a company? The property of the company. So for example, let's take Dunkin' Donuts, for example. Dunkin' Donuts, it owns a lot of buildings. It's a lot of buildings. It's a lot of properties. Or any company, sometimes they own an office, they buy the office. So now the office is part of the company. But that is not zakatable. The machinery and equipment, I give the example of t-shirts. A factory makes shirts. The machines that are used, you don't count that. The furniture in the company, the sofas inside the office, service receivables, right? People you pay in advance, their service and so forth, trademarks, copyright, patents, and so forth. So these are not part. We'll look at why this is important. I mean, we understand, but just to highlight this. So business shares. And I wrote here, to make it easy for us, Apple versus restaurant. So you have two types of business shares, broadly speaking. Number one is the one you purchase to sell it right away. I mean, you wish to resell it. The entire holding is subject to zakat plus any dividends received. So hypothetically, I bought a share of a company and this share is worth $100. One share is worth $100. Now the value of the share increased and I earned some money. So I will have to pay zakat on the entire amount. But what if I am a business partner in a restaurant? There's a difference between a share in a restaurant and a share in Apple. That's what here. Purchase for investment purposes. When I am a shareholder in a restaurant, my intention is not to sell the restaurant. My intention is that whatever money comes from the restaurant, I'm going to continue earning money from it. So there's a difference between both. Is everyone following? As opposed to Apple. In Apple, I'm not waiting there to get certain things. When I sell the share, I'm going to sell the entire share. So the zakat will be on the dividends. Dividends, number one, the amount of money I get from the restaurant. What's the second thing? The percentage of zakatable business assets. In this restaurant, what's happening? The zakat will be necessary on this from the restaurant, right? The difference is in Apple, you cannot go into the Apple share. If I have $100 of Apple share, for example, I do not know how much of Apple is divided into office space. How much of Apple is divided into right here, This is non-zakatable. If I buy a share in Apple, do I know how much of Apple's value is in property? I might. You can do a lot of research and find out. That's possible if you can't do that. How much of Apple's value is the furniture? If I can't do all of this, then it's okay. You can give zakat on only the zakatable portion. But generally, that's why we say if it's a share, you give zakat on the entire amount. If it's a purchase to resell. Now, so that is the business assets. Now let's look at debts. Debts are of two types: debts that we owe other people, and debts that other people owe us. So we're going to start with debts that other people owe us. Someone has to pay me money. So there's this of three types. And we'll take a look at this, inshallah. The first one is called the strong debt. So someone owes, so zakatable assets, cash, gold, and silver that are owed to an individual due to loans given or in unpaid invoices. So for example, Brother Khalid gave Brother Zaid $10,000. So Zaid owns, this is what you call a strong debt. Zaid owes Khalid $10,000. This is like cash, gold, and silver, and so forth. Or unpaid invoices. So unpaid invoices means I do some work for someone, right? And he has yet to pay me back. This is called an unpaid invoice. What is the hukum? What is the ruling of a strong debt? Okay. So zakat becomes necessary on the individual's owned wealth immediately. So the first step is, so for example, in our example, let's take another example. Let's make it easier. Okay. Unpaid invoice. Okay, let's just use our first example, $10,000 loan. In this $10,000 loan, if I loan the money to someone else, I have to pay zakat on the $10,000. So immediately it becomes necessary. But payment is not required until the money is received. Until the money is received. So I have to calculate it. But if I don't have the money to pay it, it's okay. I can pay it when the money comes. But if I have the money to pay it, it is better if you pay it. And you prepay it and you get it out of the way. That way, when your $10,000 come, you receive a full $10,000. Otherwise, when the $10,000 comes, you have to immediately remove 2.5%. This is what you call a strong debt. The second one is called a weak debt. This refers to intangible receivables, money you're supposed to receive but you don't have, and employees' unpaid wages. So a person's working for someone, he hasn't get paid. He has not been paid for 2-3 months. Unpaid rental for landlords. This is a very good example for New York City, right? A landlord is going through a person is going to the landlord is going. He's evicting his tenants, right? And the tenants hasn't paid him for 6 months. Now, am I going to get my money back? Am I not? This is a question. Outstanding mahar payment. The person has to pay his wife mahar. Or give his wife and so forth. Zakat is only required for received wealth and not for the past years. So what does this mean? It means, so the wife, so let's just say hypothetically, she is supposed to receive $10,000 mahar. $10,000 mahar. And then from this $10,000 mahar, it's 10,000, right? From this $10,000 mahar, she has $5,000. Her husband gave her $5,000. So she has to pay zakat on the $5,000, not on the $10,000. As opposed to the first situation. In the first situation, zakat is on the $10,000. But in a weak debt, right, you will only pay on whatever you have received. And there's a third debt, which is what we call a bad debt, which is debt which is unlikely to be paid. Unlikely, there's a very low chance of it being paid. This is also two types. Scenario number one, the person who owes money, he admits the debt. He says, okay, I owe you. So if someone admits and he agrees that he owes you money, regardless of whether he has the money or not, if he acknowledges and says, okay, I owe you money, then the debt is not excluded. So for example, someone owes me $10,000, but it is highly unlikely that he's not going to, okay, let's take another example. Let's take a larger number so we understand. Let's say someone owes me, I lent someone $200,000 to buy a house, or let's say $500,000 to buy a house. And he does not have a very high paying job. So it's highly unlikely he's going to get this $500,000 to pay me back. It's highly unlikely. But if he acknowledges, if he admits it, then I have to pay zakat on the $500,000, which is not 500,000. Generally, it's like 2,000, 10,000, whatever it is. However, this is important. This is an important part here. If the creditor is unable to receive the debt, then if he's unable, he tries again and again to get the money from him, but he's not able to get the money. In this case, it will be excluded. Scenario number 2, the person he denies he owes you money. Whoa, owe you money? What money? I don't know. Unfortunately, this also happens. Very sad, but it happens. Unfortunately, people are not honest. This is what Islam tells us, to make sure we record all transactions all the time. This is the advice, even with family members. The ulama say, even with family members, write it down. It's good. It's good to keep things clear. So that's that. In this situation, the debt cannot be subject to zakat if the person denies it. If he denies it, then we do not include it. There is no zakat on that money. So that's the money which people owe us. Now the other situation, the money which we owe other people. Sometimes, historically, before, debts were excluded. If you owed someone money, that would not be included in zakat. Just as simple as that. But the world has changed, and now our lives are full of debts. We live like this. It's normal. It's a 30-year loan. It's a 15-year loan. It's normal. Let's just say hypothetically, right? If someone has to buy a house for $2 million, that means for the next 30 years, he will not pay zakat, because he'll say, I'm in a negative. He'll never pay zakat. No one is in America going to pay zakat. 90% of America is not going to pay zakat then. So the money which I owe other people, companies, banks, right? We look at the debts which we owe others, and there's 2 broad categories. There's the long-term debt and there's the short-term debt. In a nutshell, before we start reading it, let me just explain. A long-term debt is any debt which is longer than 1 year. So for example, it could be a house loan, it could be a loan on a car, it could be a student loan, and there are many other loans. So if it's more than 12 months, if it's a long loan, what do we do? So let's just say hypothetically someone bought a house and his monthly payment is, just an example, his monthly payment is $3,500. So this is a long-term debt, right? Because more than a year. What he will do is he will only exclude that month's rent, that month's payment of the house. So if he's giving, so his entire loan amount is 1 million to be paid over 30 years. He will only exclude that specific month, the 1 month, which is $3,500. So not more. So let's just say hypothetically, I have $10,000, just to make everyone understand. I have $10,000. I have to pay zakat. From this $10,000, how much will I minus? Only 1 month's loan, not 1 million. Only 1 month's payment, which is 3,500. Short-term debt is anything which can be paid within a year. So if it's to be paid within a year, you can take the amount of the entire loan. Remember, what is this? This is the discussion. Debt to be excluded from zakat. Debt to be excluded. So we will subtract the short-term debt. No matter whatever the amount is, we will subtract it because it is short-term. Now, what other items, assets do we have to exclude when we're calculating zakat? These are which can be deducted. These are which can be excluded. Unpaid essential living expenses such as utility bills that are yet to be settled for the month. For the month, very important. So Con Edison. So now, for example, someone's Con Edison bill is $200 per month. That means for 1 year is $2,000. So you do not count the one entire year. You just count how much? That 1 month's payment of Con Edison, National Grid, your internet service provider, and other bills you may have, the water bill, and so forth. For that 1 month. Goods purchased on credit for the month. You bought something on credit, so a monthly amount you have to pay, you'll exclude that. Unsettled mahar owed to one spouse with the intention of fulfilling the payment during the year. So if a person has intention to pay the mahar within the year, he will exclude that amount of mahar. Unpaid employee compensation and outstanding service charges for the month. So for example, someone has some work, he has workers, and you have brothers, they have employees. They have not paid their employee. So they're going to exclude that month's salaries for his employees. They will remove that. They will not count that. And this last one, which we looked at right now, short-term personal loans that are due for repayment within a year. Within a year. No. Now, this is an important. This and it's a lot of numbers, but this is an important ruling, and that is, alhamdulillah, some brothers, this is the reality. Sometimes we don't know about zakat, and someone he wants to pay zakat. And he said, you know what, I have to start paying zakat. He then pays zakat for 10 years. How do you calculate those 10 years zakat? So people normally just say that estimate how much money you had, and 2.5% of that you just pay. But it's actually not that. If you do that, you're actually paying extra. So this is why I'm putting this up on the screen. How do you do this? Let's look at an example. Let's go a few years back. Let's say 1443. So a person, 14, he didn't pay zakat for a few years, and now this month of Ramadan, he wants to pay zakat. The question is, how much zakat does he pay? Okay, so you'll see the numbers now. The numbers, it's a big difference from what we think it is. What is 2.5% of $100,000? Is 2,500. The way people normally calculate it, if it's 4 years, what will they say? They say 2,500 every year. That's what they'll say, right? 2,500 every year. That's $10,000. Let's look at the difference. 1443, this person has $100,000 to pay in zakat. So zakat for 1440 is 2.5% of 100,000. That is 2,500. He has to pay 2,500 zakat. Right? He looks at his assets again, and he looks at the year 1444. And alhamdulillah, in today's world, it's very, very easy. You just have to look at your bank accounts, and it's very easy, alhamdulillah. So zakat for the next year is not 2.5 of 100,000. This is very important. The next year is 2.5% of 97,500. You will exclude this 2,500. This is already zakat right here. This is already zakat. So you're not going to take out of 100,000. You will take it from 97,500. So your zakat for the next year is 2,437. Your zakat for the next year is 2,437. So now you have to add 2,500 and 2,437. In the next year, your zakat is 2.5 of 95,000, not 100,000. Even though you check your money. So then the zakat for the next year will be 2,376. And now you will add 2,500, 2,437, 2,376. And this year, once again, you have $100,000 is 2.5 of how much? 92,685. Because you already paid zakat in the previous amount. So this year's zakat will be how much? 2,317. Now you add up 2,317, 2,437, and so forth. There's a difference. So it's not 2,500. It is not 2,500 every year. So that's how you calculate zakat for the previous years. So now, who are the recipients of zakat? Who do we give zakat to? So there's a few categories. The Quran has mentioned them. We're going to look at this very quickly, inshallah. And so the poor person, the poor and the needy, lil fuqara wal masakin. The fuqara is a person who has money but is below the nisab amount. The nisab amount, which is said, is $665. So he has like $500. This is the fuqara. The masakin, he has no money at all. He does not know when he's going to eat his next food. Allahu Akbar. This is a reality of many Muslim brothers and sisters around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the suffering of our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Sudan and other countries, Burma and other countries. I mean, they do not know when they're going to receive their next meal. Allahu Akbar. Zakat collectors, this is during the Khilafah. Mu'allafatul qulub. Mu'allafatul qulub means those people who have become Muslims recently, and they're also eligible for zakat. They're also eligible for zakat. Mu'allafatul qulub means to bring their hearts closer to Islam. To bring their hearts closer to Islam. Debts of a person, wal gharimin. He has a lot of debt, and he does not have any additional assets to help him pay the debt. The needy, he has no wealth. I think this is a repeat. Now this is a repeat. In Allah's path. The people who are in the fi sabilillah, who are poor soldiers, and the hujjaj. The hujjaj, if they are once again eligible. And the travelers. What is the wabni sabil? What does the travelers mean? The travelers mean, in today's world, that would not be the case. But hypothetically, the poor person, he's already going to receive zakat. But the person who's traveling, maybe he has money home. So a person, he is he is traveling. Well, today it's very easy because we have banks, we have ATM machines. So in today's world, this is really not a likely scenario. But hypothetically, if we go back 300 years ago, a person he's traveling, he went from Pakistan, he went to visit Afghanistan. Now he's a musafir. And mashallah, in Pakistan, he has money. But in Afghanistan, he's a traveler and he lost his money. Maybe he got robbed, someone stole all his wealth. So this person now he needs money. So even though he's wealthy back home, but right now he does not have money. And he has no way to access that wealth. So this person, he's also a recipient of zakat. Once again, I wish to mention this point, which is very important, and that is we have to be a bit careful of who we give zakat to. Some organizations, they take your zakat money and they use it for administrative costs. They use that for the salaries of their employees, their advertisements and everything and so forth. This is not, your zakat will not be fulfilled. We have to look for organizations that have a 100% zakat policy, which means if you give them $300, they will give zakat $300. They will not take any money for themselves. Zakat, you cannot give zakat to the following individuals. You cannot give to your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, which we call descendants. So your downwards and upwards, ascendants also, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. And one spouse, you cannot give to your wife or to your husband. But besides that, you can give to your family members, and you should give to your family members. You get extra thawab for zakat as well as taking care of your family. You should give to your other family members. Banu Hashim, a non-Muslim, a wealthy person, general welfare projects, we call it rifaya aam in Urdu. The masjid construction, employees as salary. So hypothetically, someone is working for you and he is a poor person. If it's his salary, you cannot say this is zakat. Zakat and salary has to always be kept separate. Prisoners, a person who does not have the nisab of zakat but has goods beyond their essential needs, which reach the value of nisab. We discussed this, the third category of people. Paying zakat, it is important to pay zakat without delay. It is necessary to make a clear intention of discharging zakat while giving it to an eligible recipient or their representative, or while separating zakat funds. Meaning, you have to make an intention. We mentioned this in the beginning, but we'll say this again. You have to make an intention. Whether when you're separating the money or when you're giving the money, you have to make an intention of zakat. You cannot just write a check. You cannot just give a credit card, fill in your details online without making intention of zakat. It will not count. It will be sadaqah. One may use their own wealth to pay the zakat of their spouse. So the husband, it's not necessary for him. The wife, she is required to pay her own zakat. But if the husband wants to, he can pay for the wife. He can pay for his children, but he just needs the permission. He just needs to let them know. And he can pay zakat for them. And why not? We should do it, inshallah. Tamliq. To ensure the validity of the zakat, the recipient must have complete ownership and unrestricted control over the wealth received. I mentioned this. When we give zakat to someone, we cannot say, make sure you don't buy this, you only buy this. You cannot do that. It's his wealth. He can do whatever he wants to do with this. Tamliq is subject to the following requirements. The transferor must be the zakat payer or authorized representative, either myself or either my representative, wherever it is. They have to give the money. The recipient must also be an eligible living person or the authorized representative, meaning he has to be an eligible living person. Eligible for zakat, number one, we mentioned, right? His necessary assets and his beyond necessary assets, both of those are below nisab. Or his representative. So sometimes we have these situations where, for example, in an organization, right? They're the wakil, we call wakil, right? The poor people, they appoint people to receive zakat on their behalf. And the organizations take the money and give it to them. In madrasas, we have some students. Usually the principal is the wakil. He takes the zakat on behalf of the student and so forth. The transfer, we just did this, but again, cannot be payment for services. It cannot be payment for services. And the recipient must take unconditional possession and ownership of the funds. So I was going to have some practice questions for everyone, but I think we are a bit low on time. But we can go with the questions. But before we go with the practice questions, and we can do it together, inshallah. But before we go with that, does anyone have any questions? MashaAllah. Usually they say 99% of the questions are actually answered in the session. Okay, let's look at the questions. If anyone has a question about whatever has crossed or whatever we have done so far, you can just raise your hand and I'll take your question, inshallah. But until then, let's look at just a few questions so we can put our zakat skills to test. We say, let's just assume the nisab is $1,000. Nisab is $1,000. Zaid has $999 in his bank. A house is worth $300,000, and a car is worth $30,000. So the question is, does Zaid have to pay zakat? Anyone? Any yeses? MashaAllah. MashaAllah. That's right. There's no zakat because he only has 99, and these are necessary assets. Let's look at the next one. Zaid has $500 in his bank, a house worth $500,000, and 2 vacation properties, each worth $100,000. So he has $500 in his bank, and the nisab is $1,000. So there's 2 questions here. The first question is, does he have to pay zakat? He has to pay zakat? Yes. Anyone know? No. Yes, no. No. So whoever is saying no, he doesn't. That's correct. That's why we understood. The next question is, can Amr receive zakat? No, he cannot receive. So that's the 3. Why? Because a house is necessary asset. The vacation is non-necessary. So, but homes, you do not count them as zakat. You do not count homes as zakat. There are 3 types of categories. So in here, oh mashallah, that's good. He does not have to give zakat, but he is not eligible to receive zakat. Gee, we covered that. We covered that before. So in the vacation homes, there's no zakat on them. On the vacation home, even a vacation home, there is no zakat on it. There will be rental. The rental, not even in the rental, there's no zakat on the property. There is zakat on the income. On the income. That's one of the questions, mashallah. We are also it's almost close to the iftar time. So I just wish to conclude with just one last statement, inshallah, and that is, alhamdulillah, as we heard yesterday, whoever was here yesterday, alhamdulillah, we have around 400 students right now. Currently, the madrasa has around 400 students, alhamdulillah, and we are in a deficit every month. We have so many teachers, mashallah, so many students, and the madrasa's policy is we do not turn away students. So many students, mashallah, we do not turn them away. If they cannot pay the fees, they cannot pay the fees. And alhamdulillah, that's our possible, barakallahu fiqh. And that's our policy, alhamdulillah. But that, of course, puts the madrasa and the masjid in a bit of a tight situation. And we do have students who are eligible for zakat. We have students who are eligible for zakat. So they are the forms outside, and you can just write on them the zakat form for zakat, and you can put your details. So if anyone wishes to give the zakat to the masjid for the sake of the students, they are welcome to do so. Inshallah, they're encouraged to do so also. The actual default of Muslim societies, if you look at Muslims historically, zakat came from the society and it was distributed in that society as well. So each community took care of its own. Yes, in today's world, you have crisis that happens across the world and everything and so forth. And we should have a portion in all the different parts of the world. So the ulama kiram, what they actually mention is, what you should do is your zakat, you can do it locally, and your sadaqah, you can do it overseas. But it's okay if you do zakat overseas, so that's no problem. But historically, the zakat, it came from within the community, and they took care of the community. So this is a very amazing opportunity. Each student here, they will be a tree of Islam in the future. They will be a tree that is giving fruits of Islam throughout its entire lives. I just want you to think for an example, for a minute. Let's just say hypothetically, one student becomes a hafiz, just one student. This student will become a teacher, inshallah, in the future. This teacher, how many students will they make a hafiz? Maybe 200. Let's just say an easy estimate is 200 students become hafiz by this teacher. These 200 students, from these 200 students, at least 15 will become teachers. From those 15, they'll have another 200 students. Let's just think about this. You will be in your grave way before that. Way before that. But the thawab of every single letter that child recites, it will continue coming to your qabr. This is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. So this is an amazing opportunity for us to contribute and take part of this extraordinary initiative, and that is giving zakat to our eligible students here in Muhammadiyya Masjid. So I encourage everyone and all, inshallah, to give your zakat. If you want to divide it, inshallah, that's also fine. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of reward for taking care of your relatives also. That's also there as well. So inshallah, but I just wanted to put this forward, inshallah. So I think, does anyone have any questions? Okay, inshallah. Jazakum khair, barakallahu feekum. Let's just make a quick dua, inshallah. Our iftar is, what time is iftar today? Today's iftar is, well, they will give the adhan, right? So iftar is Maghrib is going to be in a few minutes, inshallah. So let's just conclude with quick dua. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وإليك يرجع السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. Oh Allah, please forgive all of our sins. Oh Allah, please forgive our private, our personal, our public sins, intentional and unintentional sins. Oh Allah, please forgive the sins of the entire Muslim Ummah. Those of us who are ill, grant them shifa kamila ajila mustamirra. Those of us who have passed away, grant them Jannat al-Firdaus with hisaban yasira. Oh Allah, grant all of us the blessings and the barakah of Ramadan. Oh Allah, grant all of us the blessings of the Quran al-Kareem. Oh Allah, grant all of us the blessings of this amazing month and enable all of us to take benefit from this month. Oh Allah, grant all of us forgiveness before the ending of this month. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah, please alleviate the oppression and suffering of our Muslim brothers and sisters in Gaza. They're going through a very, very difficult time. Their electricity, their water, all their gas, everything has been shut off. Oh Allah, please, you take care of them. Allah, remove the oppression that's happening to them. Help all of our Muslim brothers and sisters all across the world who are suffering. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khair khalqi Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Warhamna ma'ahum bi rahmatikum.
What about 401k?
401k. So the ruling with 401k is that there are two types of. What is this? I think it's here. The ruling with 401k is that there are two types of 401k: vested or unvested. So
If it's invested in
vested means whichever company you go to, the money goes with you.
yeah.
Some 401ks it stays. It doesn't. Not all of it goes with.